Hello, everybody. My name is Callie,
And I'm Dylan.
and we are here to talk about the varieties in gender expressions chapter. So, when we move forward about discussing the definition of gender expression, it's really important to delineate its relationship with queerness. I know for some it can be very difficult to kind of define the lines of where does sex, sexual orientation, or chosen gender play into gender expression, but I think it's really important to clarify that gender expression is explicitly about the discussion of how you fulfill the expectation of your gender through appearance, behavior, or how you interact with others. It is not something that is explicitly done by only queer identifying people, whether you are cis, straight, gay, non binary, everybody has a gender expression. How we choose to show off masculine and feminine traits. And the way that we do that, regardless of how you identify with sex or sexual orientation, um, it's a spectrum that everybody rides.
So, speaking about the spectrum, masculine and feminine used to be thought of as opposite ends of the same spectrum. So, you either leaned more masculine or more feminine. But today, masculine and feminine are thought of as their own separate spectrum. So, think of them as their own individual slider scales. So, you can possess a high amount of masculine traits and a high amount of feminine traits, or a low amount of feminine traits and a high amount of masculine traits, or anything in between, vice versa. It's different for everyone and how they express their gender and both masculine and feminine traits.
So, as much as we're getting more flexible about our expectation of the spectrum, there are still certain personality traits that we find more appealing in certain genders than others. So, when we go into a relationship with someone who identifies as a man, traditionally we're expecting them to be more competitive, independent, reliant. When we go into a relationship with a woman, there's an expectation for her to be very warm, sympathetic, very motherly. And whether we identify the relationship of the spectrum or where they might align on both, there's still this underlining impression that, like, oh, because you align as X, Y, and Z, I expect this out of you. But it's also important to remember that there are personality traits that universally are always desirable in a relationship. Like, regardless of whether your partner is a man, woman, non-binary, whoever, you're going to want them to be a happy individual. You want them to be very truthful and likable. And it's kind of the relationship between these personality traits outside of gender that's where we kind of want to break down the discourse.
So, in expressing masculine and feminine traits, which can be desired at different levels, there is a handy dandy circle chart. So, as you can see, there is masculine and feminine, and in between, there's undifferentiated and androgynous. So, undifferentiated includes low levels of feminine traits and low levels of masculine traits. So, kind of forging the own path of neither. But what's more interesting for the purposes of this presentation are androgynous traits, which are high levels of masculine traits and high levels of feminine traits. So for an example, going back to the desired traits in men and women, you could definitely be attracted to someone who is a leader and affectionate. However, one of those is a masculine trait and one of those is a fem trait. And so, yeah, they can be equally desirable when put together, and that's androgyny.
All right. And again, androgyny kind of has a tendency to be pretty queer coded as well, but we want to reiterate the fact that regardless of sex or sexual orientation, anybody can be androgynous. It's really about possessing both masculine and feminine traits and being able to go back and forth, maintain a balance between the two of them, regardless of whether it is traditionally masculine or traditionally feminine. We can see this in celebrities such as David Bowie and Prince, or Dennis Rodman or Ezra Miller.
So here are two quick examples of androgynous individuals. They are both men, but they identify highly with femininity.
Androgyny. How do you define what androgynous means?
Well, I think it's sort of a mixture between male and female, bringing it together, and really not. I really don't think about it. I mean, I just do it. I am a man. I want people to know I'm a man, and yet I think I just bring the feminine side of me.
Wanted to, I don't know, just clear things up. I'm a boy. I'm a man. People say I'm a cross-dresser and that I'm a tranny and that I'm a she-male and all this shit. And I'm just like, damn. Like I feel like I am Dennis. That is who I am. I am Dennis. I mean, I don't care.
So both of these men in the examples identify as men, but they identify with highly feminine traits as well, and that's how they express their gender, what makes them the most comfortable and the most happy, and they are truly being themselves and possessing androgyny. And so some benefits of androgyny is that androgynous people enjoy high levels of self-esteem. They experience lower levels of anxiety, and androgyny is linked to higher levels of emotional intelligence. So therefore, it's not hard to believe that people prefer relationships with androgynous partners. They are generally more desired, they create more secure relationships, and they're less likely to need outside help with any relationship difficulties, going back to the high emotional intelligence in the last slide. So all in all, androgynous individuals are less constrained and more competent. So if you do some self-reflection, you are bound to find that you, in some way or another, are probably androgynous. Everyone expresses their gender in unique ways and possesses both masculine and feminine traits.